Bonjour, pouvez-vous vous présenter?
Bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Je suis professeur à l'Université Liberty en Amérique, où j'enseigne la théologie et apologétique et langue arabe. Merci de m'avoir accueilli aujourd'hui.
Qui étaient les principaux apologètes arabes au début de l'islam? Qu'ont-ils amené dans le débat?
There are many Arab Christian theologian in the 7, 8, 9, and 10 centuries. So in my book, I mentioned three of them: John of Damascus, Theodore Abu Qurra, and Yahya ibn Adi. But there are many others: Ammar al-Basri, al-Kindi, Raja al-Tayyib in Egypt. There are many of those, and the majority of them talked about the Trinity because it was the main objection against Christianity, and talked also about many other doctrines. So if you want to know more about the debate that happened in the West between Calvinism, Arminianism, many of them, they wrote about these topics also in the East. They tried to find a common ground between Christians and Muslims, and they used it as a starting point for their arguments.
Comment pouvons-nous répondre à l'objection musulmane contre la Trinité, qu'il s'agit de trois dieux?
Muslims tend to be literal in their understanding about the Trinity. So the Trinity in the Quran, it's totally different from historical Trinity or the way we explain Trinity today. They portray it as a holy family: God the Father, God the Son, and God the Mother, basically. And this is, again, non-historical at all. I tried to go back to the 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century to see any heresy that portray Mary as part of the Trinity. I could not find any. And the Quran written 700 years after the New Testament. So this is heterodoxy, not orthodox belief. It's a non-orthodox belief when it comes to the Trinity. So when we talk to Muslims, we have to first investigate what type of Muslims those are. Are they the one who believe the Trinity according to the Quran, or are they the one who have like a general knowledge about it? I met a Muslim in India, and he knew that we believe in the Trinity. He called it even Trinity, not like three gods. So here, what I learned from John of Damascus, Theodore Abu Qurra, Yahya ibn Adi, and many of the Arab theologians during the medieval time, they created a word called uqnum in Arabic, or the plural of aqanim. This word, they created this theological word in order to convey a divine person. And we do that in theology all the time. We create words in order to convey meanings and different meanings all the time. Think of we both have bodies. We both God is able to do everything instead of just saying this verse. So we have certain characteristics that define us as a human person. The divine person is totally different from the human person. The divine persons, those are one in essence, and they are distinct in characteristics. But here in the West, we did not create that word. And this is, I think, the brilliancy that comes with the Arabic theologian. It created a word to convey the divine person, which is not like the human person. So when I say God is one being, but he is a three persons, I'm not saying he is a three people or three gods, as the Muslims convey. John of Damascus, he is the originator of the doctrine, what we call in theological language, perichoresis. This doctrine described the mutual indwelling of the three persons of the Trinity, the three persons of the Trinity living with each other, in a communication with each other. The Father indwells the Son, and the Son indwells the Spirit, and the Spirit indwells the Father. So there is a fellowship, there is a relationship between the three divine persons. So when I talk again about the God, I talk about one being, one divine being, but he is a three persons. And again, when you say person, we don't mean a human person like you and I. divine person, those that are co-equal with each other, they live with each other, they have one essence, they are from the same nature, but they have different characteristics. So it's not illogical to say God is one being in one sense and three persons in a different sense. It is actually very logical to say that, because we're not talking about God within the same sense. He is one being in one sense, but three persons in a different sense. And those persons are not like us, a human person, they are divine persons.
En quoi la relationnalité est-elle clé dans cette conversation?
Relationality is very important because it is a virtue. To be relational in a human sense, to be relational is better than to be non-relational. For instance, we call autistic children, we call them disabled because they are unable to do relationship with others. So from that sense, I thought relationality is also very important to the divine. And any virtue that is related to the divine, it has to be on an abundance level, a more important level, higher level than on a human level. So in the divine nature, we have two types of relationality in Christianity. I called one intra-relational, which is the relationality that happen within divine persons. And then there is the interrelationality that happen with God and the creation. Because God is divine, he has to have a better relationality than a human being. So as a human being, we can do only interrelationality. I can interact and have a relationship with the outside world. But because God is a three persons, he is one being in one sense and three persons in a different sense, he can have also another type, higher type of relationality, which is the intra-relationality within the three persons of the Trinity. Why this is important? Because it shows the transcendent nature of God. And also it solved the issue, the question before the world, who God was in relationship with. Muslims, they believe in God's essence. He is the seer, all seer. He is al-Basir, all seer. He is the hearer. He can hear everything and anything. And also he is al-Mujib, the one who answers. So if God is all seeing, all hearing, and all speaking or answering, then he is communicator. He has relationality. He is relational with his creation. But all these attributes require otherness, require another something or entity or a person. So before the creation, if God is all seer, who did he see? Who did he speak? Who did he answer? There was no creation, no human being, no bird to make a sound that we can hear. He can see in his own mind, but that's not actual seeing. Actual seeing is when you see something. So with the interrelationality, if you just say God is interrelational, then you are making God dependent on his creation. He needs his creation to be relational. But if you say God is not just interrelational, but he is also intra-relational within himself, the three persons of the Trinity are in eternal relationship, no beginning, no end, then you are making God a non-dependent. He doesn't need to create the creation. He doesn't need it. He can choose to or not to. But if you say just interrelationality, then you make God dependent on his creation, and he needs to create the creation in order to be able to see and hear and interact and do and love even and be obeyed. So that's the supremacy of the Trinity, that God is intra-relational from eternity to eternity. He does not need creation.
Comment pouvons-nous utiliser ces réponses avec nos amis musulmans?
I wrote the whole book in order to be practical, not just to write words on pages. And I would give here three practical tips. You have to understand the type of Muslim you are talking about. Muslims are so different. Those who are in the Middle East are different from the ones who are in Europe or in the US. There are Muslims who, their approach to the Quran is very rigid. They stick to the Quran, to the literacy of the Quran. There are those Muslims who read the Quran once in their lifetime and they like it. They call themselves Muslim, but they don't have much knowledge about Islam. And there are those who are secular Muslims who do not care much about they grew up in an Islamic culture. Their culture is Islamic. They might fast Ramadan because their family is fasting. So you have to know what type of Muslim you are talking about. This is number one. Second, practical tips I would give, also know what their misconception about the Trinity. Do they believe in the Quranic Trinity, that Mary is part of the Trinity? Do they believe Christianity believe in three gods? And then you could ask the question, does have God to be Trinitarian? The nature of God, does it have to be Trinitarian? This multiplicity within the unity that we see in the Trinitarian God, is this a necessity? Or is this something not really necessary? So here I would say it is a necessity because of relationality. Relationality, as we said, it's a virtue. To be relational is better than to be non-relational. To be omnipotent, you have to be relational. One of the things that you could do is relationality. So if you are non-relational, or you are non-relational at one point in history, but then you became relational at another part of history, that does not show God omnipotence, does not show God is able to do everything and all things. Then the fourth step would be explain the Trinity in the historical sense. God is one being in one sense. He is a three persons in a different sense. We're not talking about one and three in the same way, in the same sense. We're talking about one and three in a different sense. And this is philosophically very correct and very logical. You and I are a human being, right? But on a different level, I am I am a wife, I am a professor, I am a sister. So on a different sense, I am different, many different things. But on one sense, I am one human being. So logically speaking, this is not a illogical idea. I just give you an example from life about being one in one sense and many, multiple in a different sense. I wouldn't use it as an example of the Trinity. I would use it as an example of how you can be one in one sense and multiple in a different sense.
Comment pouvons-nous prier pour vous?
So my next project, I have many ideas that I want to write about, but I also want it to be practical and touch on something that is very important to the Muslims in order to bring bridges and have a meaningful conversation with our Muslim friends. So I hope this book will bring, will open their eyes so we can pray for more Muslims to read the book and benefit from it. And also you can pray for me, for God to give me the second idea about the second book. What is next important to the Trinity that I can write about Muslims? I'm doing this not because I hate them, but because I love them. And I need wisdom. I need the stamina to write and publish and teach at the same time. So something about time management and everything that comes with it. Health and it's a rigorous process. It's not an easy process to publish a book. So yeah, thank you so much for your question.